My journey to Prague began with jet lag, a foggy sense of adventure, and the kind of optimism only found in people who haven't slept in 20 hours. As I rifled through my suitcase, I was hit with the suspicion I'd packed only socks, enough to open a small hosiery shop, but not a single adapter or toothpaste. I stumbled out of the airport, blinking into the European sun, my brain feeling like a half-empty jar of mayonnaise left in a hot car. The world spun gently, as if Prague itself was welcoming me with a slap and a hug. Guidebooks promised a city of 100 spires, a fairy tale kingdom, where every corner whispers stories of alchemists, kings, and secret passages. What they didn't mention was the first fairy tale is convincing yourself you're functional after 10 hours in a flying tin can. My body was in Prague, but my soul was still somewhere over the Atlantic, clutching a tiny airline pillow. From my vantage point, Prague looked more like the city of 100 cobblestones designed to trip me. Each step was a negotiation with gravity and centuries-old paving stones. My grand plan: conquer the city, soak in its history, and maybe find a little magic. I imagined myself as a bold explorer, ready to unlock Prague's secrets. My immediate plan: find a bathroom, then a bed. Priorities, after all, are the true mark of a seasoned traveler. The air smelled of history, diesel, and the promise of roasted meat. Every breath was a reminder that I was somewhere old, alive, and deliciously unfamiliar. Was I in a medieval wonderland or just near a busy food truck? My stomach didn't care. It rumbled in protest, demanding answers and possibly a sausage. I pictured myself strolling the Charles Bridge, but reality was me, a pale American dragging a squeaky suitcase over ancient stones, trying not to look like a lost extra from a travel documentary. My hotel's authentically rustic charm meant the plumbing had opinions, loud, gurgling ones, and the shower seemed to operate on medieval logic. And the window faced a brick wall. Not exactly the sweeping city view I'd imagined, but at least it was private. But this wasn't about luxury. This was a pilgrimage, a quest for stories, for wonder, for something just out of reach. I splashed my face with water that smelled like the 14th century and set out with a singular purpose: to let Prague surprise me, no matter how tired I was. I was on a mission from God. If God was a cheerful Czech named Pavel who believed happiness was found at the bottom of a glass, and that every good story starts with a toast to the unknown. Let's talk budget. Not the kind that comes with spreadsheets and financial advisors, but the kind that's more about survival than strategy. Mine was more hopeful prayer than financial plan. Each morning I'd count my coins and hope the math would magically work out. In the US, a day out can cost a kidney. Even a simple lunch can leave your wallet gasping for air. Here, I aimed to thrive on a budget that would make a college student weep with joy. In Prague, even the thriftiest traveler can feel like royalty. The secret? Beer. Czech beer, to be precise. It's not just a drink here, it's a way of life and the ultimate budget hack. Every decision was weighed against the price of a pint. Museum ticket? 10 beers. Suddenly art appreciation became a luxury. Fancy dinner? A brewery's worth? Why splurge on steak when you can feast on goulash and pilsner for a fraction of the price? My day was mapped by a constellation of low-priced pubs, not landmarks. Each pint was a checkpoint on my journey. These weren't tourist traps, but local havens where beer flowed cheaper than water. The real Prague lives in these corners. My guidebook? Scribbled notes from forums titled, "Cheapest Beer in Prague." I became a connoisseur of online tips and local secrets. I was a Magellan of malt, navigating tourist pricing to find the promised land of the $1 pint. Each discovery felt like a small victory. This was more than bargain hunting, it was cultural immersion. Sharing a table with locals, I learned more than any guidebook could teach. Beer here isn't just a drink, it's part of the national identity, served with every meal. It's a social glue, a tradition, and a point of pride. I was ready to embrace this philosophy with open arms and an open gullet. In Prague, every toast is a celebration of life's simple pleasures. My mission: live like a king on a pauper's budget, one glorious, affordable beer at a time. Each coin stretched further, each pint a reward. The city's spires could wait. The pubs were calling and I was more than ready to answer. My first stop, the Grumpy Bear, a pub tucked away down a shadowy alley, perfect in its pre-sunrise gloom. The kind of place you'd never find unless you were looking for trouble, or maybe just a really good story. The old wooden door creaked as I stepped inside, and I felt like I'd crossed into another world. The air was thick with cigarette ghosts and the unmistakable aroma of fried cheese, comforting, nostalgic, and a little bit rebellious. The walls were stained with decades of laughter and secrets, and every table seemed to have its own story. I ordered a beer with a universal gesture, a simple nod and a raised finger. The bartender, a man of few words and many stories, grunted, poured a golden masterpiece, and slid it across the bar. The price? Less than $2. In New York, that wouldn't even cover the tax. Here, it bought me a half-liter of heaven, served in a glass so clean it sparkled under the dim lights. I carried my sacred vessel to a wobbly table in the corner, the kind that's seen 1,000 toasts and confessions, and prepared for the first sip. The taste? Transformative, crisp, clean, perfectly balanced. No grapefruit, no pine cone, just pure, unpretentious beer. It was the kind of flavor that made you want to slow down and savor every drop. It was the kind of beer that makes you want to solve problems or write a novel, or at least order another. I could almost feel inspiration bubbling up with every sip. Jet lag melted away, replaced by a warm, fuzzy sense of well-being. The world outside faded, and for a moment, nothing existed but the beer and the gentle hum of conversation. The cobblestones outside seemed less treacherous, the bartender almost charming. Even the night air felt softer, as if Prague itself was welcoming me. This wasn't just a drink, it was a cultural reset button, a reminder that sometimes the simplest pleasures are the most profound. For less than a bottle of water at a US airport, I'd bought pure bliss. It was a bargain, but it felt like a luxury. Operation Pilsner on a shoestring was a resounding success. I felt like I'd unlocked a secret level of travel happiness. I raised my glass to the empty chair across from me, a silent toast to Prague's genius, and to the simple joys that make travel unforgettable. The city's magic was real, and it tasted like beer. I was officially converted, and I knew I'd be chasing this feeling for the rest of my trip. After my spiritual pint, my stomach demanded food, urgently. I found a wood-paneled eatery where the menu hadn't changed since the Velvet Revolution. The menu was a celebration of everything my doctor warns me about: stews, fried cheese, potato dumplings. I ordered goulash and of course another beer. When the food arrived, it was a masterpiece of brown, rich beef stew, fluffy bread dumplings, and a loyal pint. The beer cut through the goulash's richness, a perfect pairing. In America, this would be a $30 meal. Here, it was $8, beer included. I cleaned my plate with dumplings, savoring every bite. This wasn't just lunch, it was fuel for more exploring, and more beer. I felt powerful, satisfied, and ready for anything. Prague was quickly becoming my favorite place on earth. Good food, great beer, and my wallet barely noticed. I was thriving. With a belly full of goulash and cheap Pilsner, it was time for some budget sightseeing. My approach? Look at things from the outside. Luckily, Prague is its own open-air museum. My first stop, Old Town Square, the city's historical heart. I skipped the pricey carriage ride and relied on my own 2 feet. The square buzzed with tourists, selfies, and stunning architecture. I stood and stared, an underrated free activity. The astronomical clock's hourly show was medieval theater at its finest, and it cost nothing. I wandered labyrinthine streets, each turn revealing hidden courtyards and quirky statues. Getting lost was half the fun. Prague's history is in its cobblestones and facades. You don't need a ticket to feel it. My wallet stayed closed, but my appreciation grew with every step. Budget sightseeing was a success, and all that walking made me thirsty again. After hours of high-intensity staring, the afternoon slump hit. In America, I'd buy a giant iced coffee. In Prague, the solution was better, and cheaper. I found a pub with outdoor seating, perfect for people watching and recharging. I ordered my third Pilsner of the day. The beer arrived glistening in the sun, as perfect as the first. Every bartender here pours the perfect pint. It's practically a civic duty. The first sip recharged my batteries. The fatigue vanished, replaced by a renewed sense of purpose. Enjoy the moment. I watched the world go by, listened to Czech conversations, and marveled at the genius of a city where beer solves most problems. This was a strategic move, a bridge between morning culture and evening adventure. Once again, less than $2. I'd survived the tourist day's toughest part, choosing the path of the Pilsner. It was a hard life, but someone had to live it, and I was up for the challenge. As the sun dipped, a sweet aroma filled the streets. Trdelník. This spiral pastry, roasted over coals and rolled in sugar and cinnamon, was impossible to resist. Tourist trap or not, I didn't care. When something smells that good, you just buy it. The price? About 2 beers, my new unit of currency. I watched as the vendor handed me a warm, caramelized Trdelník. The first bite crispy outside, soft inside, pure sugary bliss. It was the perfect street snack, delicious, affordable, and easy to eat while walking. A small indulgence that made the day special without breaking the bank. Fueled by sugar and Pilsner, I was ready for the evening's main event, a sunset stroll across the Charles Bridge. Prague's magic was in full effect. The day's grand finale, Charles Bridge at sunset. I grabbed a final ceremonial beer from a corner store, cold, cheap, and portable. Walking onto the bridge was like stepping into a living painting, golden sky, silhouetted statues, the castle looming above. I found a spot between two statues, cracked open my beer and took it all in. Street musicians played, artists sketched, and people from around the world shared this perfect moment. Some paid for river cruises or rooftop bars. I had the same view for the price of a can of beer. It was the ultimate travel hack. I watched the sun disappear, city lights twinkling on, feeling triumphant. I'd feasted, explored, and kept my expenses low. Charles Bridge at sunset, beer in hand, was the perfect end to Operation Pilsner on a shoestring. Proof that the best things in life are, if not free, at least very, very cheap in Prague. I was living the dream. As stars appeared over Prague's spires, I took the last sip of my beer and tallied my expenses. A few beers, hearty goulash, a sugary Tredelnik, and a final canned beer. Less than parking in LA. I'd experienced a perfect day in a world-class city on a shoestring. The hardest choices? Which cheap, delicious beer to drink next, or whether to have stew or fried cheese. The struggle of walking through centuries-old streets and watching a sunset over a castle with a $1 beer. Prague taught me, you don't need a fat wallet to travel well. Just be smart, open, and embrace the local way. Good food, good company, and great beer that doesn't cost a fortune. It's a paradise for the practical, a haven for the thrifty. I'd come, seen, and conquered Prague on my own terms. My feet were sore, my heart was happy, and the jet lag was gone. I couldn't wait to wake up and do it all over again tomorrow.